There are moments when you think you've lived through it all until something new arrives, soft-footed, and rearranges everything. At 56, I thought I understood the winds of life. But uh, that morning, something inside me screamed, not with pain, not with fear, but with a mixture of shock and pleasure. And it all began inside my own home. Ever since I was a young woman, I've taken care of myself, well-kept hair, fragrant skin, a firm stride. I was never one to keep the window shut or let the mirror gather dust. At 56, I still put on a little lipstick just to have coffee by myself. And you know what? I think I'm beautiful, without a trace of false modesty. I feel new, whole, the kind of woman that age kisses but does not wear down. Every now and then, I take a little stroll through the square just to feel the breeze. And of course, to sneak a peek at the young men jogging by. I'm not made of stone, after all. It was on one of those mornings that I decided to call someone to fix the hinges in the house. The door was groaning more than I did on cold nights. I called an acquaintance, and a few hours later, Enrique appeared at my door. 29 years old, light brown skin, and a sparkle in his chestnut eyes that you can't buy. He was tall, with large hands and a quiet way about him. But his gaze? Ah, his gaze said more than his mouth ever did. Enrique entered shyly, carrying his toolbox like a man carrying a secret. I led him to the kitchen door and let him kneel right there, fiddling with the screws. I took the opportunity to observe the work, of course, but also the subtle curve of his back as he leaned over. If you need anything, just call, I said, my voice soft, with a smile that let slip more than it should have. He thanked me, a little awkwardly, but I saw him glance from the corner of his eye, as if sizing up both the kitchen and its owner. I returned with 2 glasses of water, one already with ice and lemon. Do you like it cold like this? Or do you prefer it hot, like morning coffee? I asked, casting words like a line into a calm river. He laughed, the kind of laugh that isn't fully released, but betrays a desire. Cold is great, thank you, he answered. And did our fingers touch by accident or by design? I don't know. I only know that when his skin met mine, a shiver ran from the nape of my neck to the back of my knees. While he worked on the doorknob, I sat in the rocking chair opposite him, not just to rest, but to watch his movements with more intent. I started making small talk, asking about his life, his work. He said he did a bit of everything, that he had 3 sisters and lived with his mother. That's when I let it slip. A woman must be happy with a man who knows how to handle 3 women in one house. He looked up at me, raised an eyebrow, and replied, "You learn to listen and not to meddle with what you don't understand." I laughed. But some things you only learn by meddling. From that moment on, the atmosphere shifted. Henrique was no longer just the handyman. He was a man who understood the gaps, the creaks, the corners that few people notice. I saw it in the way he started wiping the sweat from his brow more often. The sun wasn't even strong. The heat was coming from somewhere else. From me, perhaps. By the end of the day, he had fixed the door, replaced the lock, and adjusted the handle. "If you need help with anything else, just call. I'll come back," he said, looking directly into my eyes. "I will," I replied. "There are a few drawers that have been sticking too, but we can look at those with a bit more time. I closed the door, my heart pounding in a way it hadn't for a long, long time. I knew. He had noticed. The game had begun, and I had no intention of backing down. The house may be old, but the woman who lives in it still knows how to light a good fire. The next day, I put on a light dress, the kind that dances with the wind and clings only where it shouldn't. I made a point of wearing my oldest perfume, the one that can awaken memories even in peeling walls. I knew Henrique would be back. I had texted him myself, saying a shelf in the pantry was loose. A well-told lie, just to see him walk through my door one more time. He arrived late in the morning, sweating, his shirt clinging slightly to his chest. He greeted me with a "good morning," so low it was almost a whisper. As he passed me, I smelled him, a mix of sun and honest work, the scent of a man who doesn't shy away from a job or from a look. I was leading him to the pantry, but I stopped on the way. I pretended to slip, just a little, and he caught me by the waist. Quick, firm, as if he'd rehearsed it. And I, with the most innocent face in the world, let out, "Oh, thank goodness you were here. I would have taken a nasty fall." He chuckled and didn't let go right away. While he worked on the wood, I stayed close, folding dish towels that didn't need folding. And I started talking again. "You know, Henrique, there are things in life we put off, but sometimes a part of the house just demands attention." He stopped moving, raising his eyes slowly. "Are you talking about the pantry or something else, Mrs. Helena?" "The house, of course, but maybe it's all connected, isn't it? The things that need care reveal themselves when we least expect it." Henrique put down his screwdriver and stepped closer. "There's a lot in here that you take very good care of. The house feels alive." I smiled. "Yes, but some corners only respond when the right hand touches them." The silence that followed was deafening. He went back to work, but his eyes, ah, his eyes were saying more than the hammer. Later that afternoon, as he was tightening the last screw, he asked me if I'd always been this way. I asked, "This way how?" He replied, "Intense. The master of the house and of the game. You get inside a man's head without asking for permission." I gave a crooked, half-daring smile. Some people don't like being left outside, so I leave the door ajar. When he left, I walked him to the door. He lingered for a few seconds, looking at me as if he wanted to say more. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, and said without fear, "Tomorrow, the floor in the hallway might need a look. I think it's been creaking far too much." He laughed as he was leaving and called back over his shoulder, "Tomorrow, I'll bring the right tool. I'll be waiting." I closed the door slowly. The house felt different. The air was denser, the light softer, the corners more attentive, as if everything knew we were no longer just making small talk. The next morning, I wore a light set of loungewear, the kind you wear more to provoke the mirror than for anything else. I dabbed a bit of perfume on my wrist, the one almost no one knows, but those who smell it never forget. At 9 o'clock sharp, Henrique appeared, smiling the way only someone who knows what's coming can. "The hallway floor, is it?" he said, a glint in his eye that entered the room before he did. The hallway was there, waiting for him, and so was I. He knelt slowly, examining the wood with care. "This spot here," he commented, pressing down firmly, "seems sensitive." "Some parts of this house only yield to someone who insists a little," I teased. He shot me a quick glance, the kind that travels over you without any hurry. And in that silence, our breathing spoke louder than any words. He found the right crevice, and fit the tool in, as if that gap had been made just for him. At that very moment, I felt a jolt in my body, the kind you don't show, but you feel deep inside. I leaned against the wall, trying to feign composure. Is it deep? I asked, laughing. It is, but it seems manageable, he replied. And inside, I was nothing but a tremor. Henrique was concentrating, but you could tell his focus was divided. The sun slanted in, illuminating his outstretched arm, tense and beaded with sweat. There was something about that scene that made me feel weak. Then it happened. As he pushed, slowly, the structure gave way with a soft crack. And then everything opened up for him to enter completely. The key turned in the lock, as if it knew the way, without hesitation, sliding all the way to the back with an almost indecent precision. His breath quickened, and mine followed without permission. The moment he pushed firmly, I felt my body welcome every inch, as if it had been waiting for that perfect fit for a very long time. An involuntary ah escaped my lips. I feigned a choke on the water I was holding. A lie. He chuckled. Need help swallowing that? He joked, and I laughed with him, not knowing if I wanted help or if I was already gone. It wasn't just the movement. It was the way he went deep, slow, feeling every wall, every corner, as if exploring sacred territory. When he finished, he stood up slowly and looked at me with an almost solemn calm. There, all fixed, and I just stood there, leaning against the wall, laughing to myself, because at 56 years old, I had screamed, not from shock, but from pure, unadulterated surprise. And just like that, I had